campfire
Progress.
are not available right now for, and we don't know if they will be at all for park fire survivors. So we're kind of holding off on doing any other grants, knowing that the money we've raised for this disaster, which is, not a great amount, but the money we've raised probably will need to support folks without insurance or underinsured folks up there. We're just not exactly sure how that's all going to stand up yet, because everything hasn't been assessed. They don't have really good numbers exactly on that we're hearing on, how many people are uninsured, underinsured, those types of things. So at this stage, we're just kind of talking to the different groups. I'm not exactly sure how the long-term recovery is going to stand up. They're going to stand up their own recovery group. In fact, I was just reading some emails about it. So it's kind of a little bit of a wait and see right now. I understand from Butte 211 that people have been told that by the county that they shouldn't go on and try to start clearing their land or anything yet until FEMA or governments have their chance to go in and assess everything. So we're kind of a little bit in a waiting stage now. Yeah.
Looks like we have a quorum, but I appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Yeah, hi Matt, thanks for joining us, and Shelby, I got you. Great, and we'll do the official roll call here in a moment just to check my work here. So Danny Steyer. Okay, gotcha. Dax Albrecht.
Here.
Thank you. Lyda Scoggin.
Here.
Marcia Roby.
Here.
Shelby Lung.
Here.
Gotcha. Matt Fogarty.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, and with us today participating, we have Sherry Pryor and Kes Porter, Michaela Trammell, and Adam Cox as well. And we also have Kim Dufour from the North Valley Community Foundation as well. And I know Greg Walsh will be logging in here momentarily. Kaylee Bentz will not be joining us today. He did say that he was not going to be able to make it. And I'm uncertain about Trina. I did reach out to her, but maybe she'll be able to get in a position where she can log in. So with that, may I have a motion to approve today's agenda?
Marcia.
Marcia Roby.
I'll second it then, Lyda.
Lyda Scoggin. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none. Okay. Next agenda item, approval of the August 5th, 2024 meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes of the August, whatever it was, 5th meeting.
Thank you, Lyda Scoggin. And Danny, I heard a second from you.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Any opposed? None. Okay. And it looks like we have Trina logging in right now. Great. All right, fantastic. All right, moving on to the next agenda item, public input. Is there anybody, Kest or Sherry, you're part of our public? Anything that you'd like to share?
We don't have anything really today. I was watching the recording of the last steering committee meeting on the subcommittee updates, because that was very interesting. So we're looking forward to hearing about those today too.
Great, yeah, definitely a continuation of those conversations. Absolutely. And yeah, okay, well, we'll continue to move on. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So just general updates, treasurer's update. Danny, I know you gave a rundown on Saturday's community meeting. Thank you for that. But are there any additional points you'd like to address here with the steering committee?
No additional net comments, nothing else new came in, so I think we'd rather go ahead and reserve the time for the stuff to rehash it. Look at it, everybody on the steering committee, at the bottom of the steering committee page, if you didn't see it. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Danny. I appreciate it. And, you know, just for everyone's knowledge, Danny did a very thorough rundown on Saturday of describing the current status of funds for the Dixie Fire Collaborative, where the money's been spent, either through grant commitment and or just general expenses, and then identified an overall percentage of what the remaining balance is. So he'll continue to address that and as the requirements come up. All right, so we'll move on to the Dixie Fire Canopy Project grant. We're joined today again by Michaela Trammell, who's the Executive Director of the Dixie Fire Canopy Project. She joined us on the 5th to describe kind of the progress of the Dixie Fire Canopy Project over the summer. If you recall, last May, the steering committee elected to or voted to approve $50,000 grant reward to the Dixie Fire Canopy Project. Michaela shared that $50,000 sort of juxtaposed to her original budget and explained some areas in her budget where they went over and areas where they're in their budget where they underspent as kind of the rubber met the road, and they got into the business of actually following through with their mission and purpose. So I know that some were not on that meeting. So some of the steering committee members were not present. So Michaela is here again to be able to answer any questions or refine any of that. And then is also looking to pursue another $50,000 grant request from the Dixie Fire Collaborative. If you recall, she had initially submitted a budget of $100,000, of which the Dixie Fire Collaborative you all opted to fund half of that, $50,000, and that's what got the Dixie Fire Canopy Project through the summer. So that's just kind of a little background. Michaela, over to you if there's anything you'd like to provide to the team here.
Yeah, hi there. Thank you again for having me. Can everybody hear me okay? Perfect. Okay, so some updates. You know, we've been having a crazy hot summer, so it's been definitely something that we've had to be a little bit flexible with and learn how to navigate. Same as with that park fire, there was a lot of uncertainty. So at this point, we have our sights set on the areas that were kind of projected in the park fire path. And so we weren't able to get out to. So that's a big one is the Warner Valley area. We reached out to a few of the people that are on our list for the Warner Valley, and we have tried to hopefully see if we could do some planting out there in early to mid-September. So we've been trying to collect order forms for those areas as well to see if that would be a possibility. So that's kind of where my sights are set, is the Warner Valley, Chester, and all that corridor right there, that in between Canyon Dam and Warner Valley. So that's kind of where my focus is on right now, because we were not able to get out there due to the park fire and the uncertainty in that area. Same as the Greenville Elementary School, we had planned to put a small orchard out there for them. And I know I had kind of touched on this in the last meeting, but then, you know, they had some things with their school district and everything that we had to kind of wait and hear back on. And then we got word, of course, you know, at the end of the summer that it was a green light for us to be able to go and put those fruit trees in there for them. So now we're trying to work up to that. Those trees collectively just by themselves in 15-gallon pots for 14 trees would be a little over a little under $1,100 with delivery. So that's really good. It sounds like if we switch to these 15-gallon pots, we're going to be able to plant significantly more trees than we had originally budgeted for. And so that's kind of my goal right now. When we had ordered our last order, we had ordered a few of those 15-gallon pots, and they were just about the same size as we were planting in the 30-gallon pots. So still doing the immediate benefit for people, the fruit on the trees and the shade cover and everything like that, but they're significantly cheaper. They're about half as much. So that's kind of a really exciting new thing that we've discovered. So that's the direction we're going to be going. Apparently, they also have a higher rate of survival and less transplant shock. So that's our new direction that we're going to go with that. So yeah, I just wanted to give any kind of updates, answer any questions that you guys may have. And then again, yes, I would like to put in that request for the second half of that funding that I had originally requested for. Everybody's quiet. So I'll go ahead and also mention that we've had significantly more people reach out to us since the last time we spoke. At this point, we've had to continue to tell people, yes, we do hope to continue to plant, but at this point, we'll be looking to add you to the spring phase so that we could hopefully finish out the people that we had talked to this year. I also got an email today from a representative of the Almanor Foundation to hopefully see about going under them as a fiscal sponsor. So as soon as I hear back from them and we have those Zoom meetings and have those discussions, hopefully that'll continue to carry us further to help more people. And it's really exciting. We also presented a grant request through the Arbor Day Foundation again last week. It was a 3-year project in the amount of $1 million to be spread out over 3 years. I should be finding out, we wouldn't receive that funding until I believe spring of 2025, but I should be finding out about that, whether we receive that or not, coming up on the 23rd. So fingers crossed that hopefully we'll be able to get to those outer areas of those fires and everything like that. So
Mikhail, looks like Lida has a question or a hand.
oh, okay.
I think you probably just answered. I was just going to ask what progress you've made on funding from other sources, and I think you just answered that question. So
Yeah, and that's not the only one. We're actively always looking for additional grant prospects and things like that. We've made some really great connections, and does sound like from the last that I heard, I had presented, and I think I had said that the Audubon Society, that actually may have fell through, but I'm not entirely sure, and I have yet to touch base, but I do think that maybe a request for funding was put in by them for us as well, so I will have to double check on that. And I believe the number was for $100,000 with the 15% taken off the top, so for a total of $85,000. I don't know if we'll receive that funding or anything like that. I do believe that was a PG&E grant. So
Michaela,
I can readdress that as well.
Michaela, this is Trina.
Okay.
With the grant cycles, they won't be notifying approval or not until October. So it's in the works. It's just sometimes that's part of grant cycles.
Yes. Yeah. So again, it's just kind of a waiting in limbo to hear back and things like that. And we're kind of hoping to plant what we can with the season that we've got left and then try and pick up and run like crazy with it again next spring, since we'll have our feet on the ground and we should have a little bit better knowledge as well in the spring to get going again.
So I'm sorry I got here late. Hi, everybody. And I missed some of your presentation. So you have applied for grants. Have you gotten any funding from anybody else at this point? Is there anybody else that's giving you money?
We've had quite a few private donations. They were smaller amounts, so it wasn't able to do a significant amount of people or anything like that. It was probably close to a tree here, a tree there, things like that. So we've had quite a few private donations, and then again the grant requests. It's just been you apply for it, and and you kind of have to wait and hear back a couple months down the road and everything like that. I think I had given every grant that I had applied for in the last meeting. I don't have those notes with me in front of me, but I did go through all of the list of grants that we had applied for. And again, we should hear back on the Arbor Day funding on the 23rd. So just a few days from now.
Okay. Can you also, I saw the work that you did up in, with the trailer park up in Canyon Dam. Can you tell me how many trees and everything you put in up there?
Oh yeah. So my company personally, we did 4 trees at Canyon Dam Mobile Home Estates. And then we had with Monica Potter with FRC, she had requested a $2,000 grant to beautify the highway right there in Canyon Dam. And she was awarded that $2,000 grant. And so we went out there and assisted with the planting, and we provided a match with all the materials, the soil, the mulch, things like that. So we went up there and in the Canyon Dam, and they're all along the highway. So there was supposed to be 4 trees per lot. And so there's 4 at the Quail Lodge. There's supposed to be 4 in front of where the Canyon Dam store was, but since they're rebuilding, those trees are also in front of the Quail Lodge to receive the water and everything there. And then there was 3 different properties between the post office, also on the other side of the post office, and then the other mobile home park that I believe the Myers own that we put trees on. So for a total of 5 properties.
How many trees went into the Myers property?
4, maybe.
Looks like about 20.
Oh, no. They also did purchase their own trees that are in the back.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
they ended up purchasing.
Yeah, the whole line of trees. So just,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
no,
Robert,
ours are.
Robert Morton put in some of his own as well. So
Yeah, and the Myers in the back that they ended up putting in their own as well. So ours are only right there along the street side, both sides of the
Great.
highway.
Put your hand.
right.
Didn't.
I've got Danny's hand. Danny's got a question, and then Keston, Sherry, do you have a question next? Okay,
Yes.
so we'll go Danny, and then we'll go Keston, Sherry.
I think Marcia was in there somewhere, but she doesn't have one of those reaction things to click up too, I think. So, but kind of go back to the question, why do we feel it necessary to have the Amorta Foundation as a fiscal manager? I know that we are not a 501(c)(3). That's why we have a fiscal manager. But I thought you were a 501(c)(3), so why do you need a fiscal manager?
Yeah, they just have an extensive network of people, and they offer to take us under and look for funding for us, and then they retain 5% of that themselves. So it's one of those, they don't take anything from what I receive on my own. Like if I was to go and apply for an Arbor Day grant, they wouldn't receive any of that. What they do is they retain all of the books for any kind of funds that they receive for the Dixie Fire Canopy project. And because I'm relatively new and I'm still just kind of getting my bearings, I figured it would be a very smart move to be able to look for that additional funding and possibly have that coming through the Almanor Foundation and their networks, just to be able to try and carry us to whether or not my main goal is to help as many people as possible. And so as a very new, I'm under a year old, will be a year old on September 27th of this year. It seemed like a great option for additional funding through their organization.
Right. However, I think it's a misnomer to say fiscal support sponsor. I guess that's why I'm confused. It sounds like more of a partnership, because otherwise, if they were a fiscal sponsor, then everything would go through them, such as it does through North Valley and comes to us. And North Valley is the one that helps manage and takes care of that fiscal responsibilities. And so that's why I'm asking that question, to kind of understand, are they going to help you with your books? They started kids that way, but it changed. So are they going to process your books for you? And is that where they taking those funds for doing, or are they really just a partner?
Yeah. Well, they would provide any of the bookkeeping services for the funds that they pull in. So, anything that, you know, we receive through them, they will provide that all around kind of service for. However, I do have my own private bookkeeper as well for, our personal funds that we receive on our end.
Okay, so I see that as a partnership, not fiscal. So I guess that's what I'm hearing. And I really
Yeah.
think you should look at it that way.
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is what they sent me in the email is the
Right.
fiscal sponsorship. So that's just kind of the terminology I ended up using. However, it would probably be close to a partnership.
Yeah, they're managing, I mean, that's why I'm seeing it. So, but I have another question backing up to the first grant. And I know I was there for the initial discussions, but I wasn't there at the voting of that, and I'm glad we were able to go forward. But I recall at that time that you had close to 50, you know, half of the grant was really covered by the other entities that had shown up for support. So that's kind of where I thought the, you know, that 50,000 figure had come from. And so it's almost, you know, you're reapplying for the 50,000 that you got from somebody else. It's almost, to me, that's why I'm confused. It's almost like it should be a second 50,000 rather than you know, applying for the 50,000 you did get, which I saw you didn't get because it was funded through other granting agencies.
No, so my original request for funding was for $100,000.
Right.
And that was to be in addition to the grants I had already received from the Arbor Day Foundation, Pacific Gas and Electric, the Rotary Club, the Chamber of Commerce funded us for $3,000, and Bread for the Journey. So that was all in addition to that, not as a match. So I had requested the $100,000, and then that was projected to help 150 people, properties. However, it was decided amongst yourselves to do half of that. And so we were able to do, in my projected numbers, I had planned for 75 properties. However, we were able to help 82 properties. So we are now looking to do an additional, 75 trees. And we were able to do 82 trees with that. So now we are looking to do the additional, the remaining portion of the original request so that we can do an additional, and not 82 trees, because we're looking for those smaller trees. So we're hoping to hopefully even double that amount.
Awesome. Thanks for the clarification. I just wanted to get that square in my mind. All right.
Yes.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Keston, Sherry, and then Marcia, if there's a question.
Michaela's, what Michaela just said covered what we were going to say, so that's fine.
Okay, very well. Marcia?
I just wanted to compliment her because she's been working so hard on looking for different sources of grant funding. And also it seems like her learning curves on how to just plant and propagate the trees is really doing well. So good job.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, Kim, go ahead.
So, and maybe Patrick might have mentioned this in the beginning. Have you provided a detailed budget on exactly how the first 50,000 was spent?
I did, yes.
Okay.
And I believe that could probably be forwarded to you in an email as well. So I have it attached to the original budget that was for 100,000 and what my projected numbers were. And then I had cut that all in half as to what I had projected with the receiving of the $50,000. And then I attached one to the exact expenses of that $50,000.
Okay, so Patrick, you have that, what's been spent? Because I think what would be helpful, especially since you are such a new, young organization, to kind of have a handle. Oftentimes we ask grantees, especially smaller ones, to provide us your overall budget as the Dixie Fire Canopy project. And then also the 50,000 that came from this group and how it was spent. So then this group has a really clear understanding, you know, have you brought in, I know in the grant you talked about the, you mentioned things like the 15,000 from the Arbor Day Foundation, 30,000 you said from FedEx.
Yes.
Kind of all the money you brought in to date, maybe including
ma'am.
this 50,000 and what it's all been spent on. So they just kind of have a sense of just kind of the fiscal health of the group. Because this is a large grant for any of us to do.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
so, and one of the things too that might make sense is even to, just to be able to attach some of that financial stuff to this grant, before you move forward.
I sent it out to the team on the last steering committee, but I just sent it again. Kim, I
Okay.
just CC'd you on it as well, and I can share my screen if that helps.
Yes, please. That would be great.
Can you all see that?
Can you zoom in on just the budget portion?
Yeah, let's see here. Let me see here. Let me stop sharing. Let's see if I get a better vantage point here. Bear with me one moment, please. Thank you.
Michaela, did you lose any trees?
We lost two. Yeah, two dogwood trees. And I tried really hard because we had a few trees that were suffering because they weren't planted immediately in their pots because people were unsure of placement and construction and things like that. So we had some that I thought we were going to kill completely, but I ended up bringing them home and rehabbing them, and then they went right back out as soon as all their new leaves popped out. But we had two dogwood trees that did not make it because they were planted in full sun and in kind of a boggy area. So that was unfortunate, but it was a hard summer for them.
I've heard dogwoods are really tough to get going anyway. They really need the
Yeah.
right place. And
They really do.
Can you all see that now?
Mhm.
Is that better?
Yeah.
And is it big enough or need to zoom in some more?
no, it's good for me.
I can see it.
So some of the areas that I was not able to cut in half and improvise on at all was the wages, the payroll and everything like that. He did the same amount of work in the same amount of time. So I was not able to cut that in half with the grant that we had received the half portion of. So he still got paid his regular wages and things like that. So we pulled from miscellaneous costs, and the administrative fee dropped down from about 10% to maybe 8% and went towards those wages. You can see up in the top two lines where the trees and shrubs are grouped together because we purchased those together. So that's the total cost for trees and shrubs and delivery there. The mulch, we have somebody that donated a pile of the wood chippings, the free wood chipping program that they had going on. And so we were able to cut costs there, which saved us significantly. And then there's, I'm having a little bit of a hard time seeing those numbers. So the gravel, that lasted us a lot longer than I thought it was going to. So that number is going to be a little lower there. There we go. The soil delivery, he only delivers, he doesn't do any kind of half orders. So we had to still order that full amount there of the 32 yards plus delivery. The PVC pipe, we ended up just purchasing the 20 units of that. I think we ended up purchasing it was 25 units from American Valley Hardware in Quincy. And then you can see that we used the full amount of the half for the equipment and shovels and supplies. We used the full amount there. The travel is something that I had severely under budgeted, I believe. So you can see where my numbers were wrong there. The gas prices, they just kind of kept going up. So that never really got any easier. I had this project management, that was not a line item in the original budget that I had submitted. That is what I learned from Christy Hoffman with Sierra Nevada Conservancy. That's where my wages would come in. So you can see that that's still a blank item there because I'm still trying to navigate that whole. I wanted to also make sure I had a legitimate bookkeeper before I even thought about paying myself. So that's still something that's being worked through and things like that. And then the contract labor expenses, like I said there, I was not able to improvise on those at all. And then the promotional materials, that I had let me see. So I did end up for website design. That was a hard price. I was not able to get out of for $2,500, and then the $300 additional for the signs that goes towards putting in front of people's yards that say North Valley Community Foundation and Dixie Fair Collaborative on them. And then the miscellaneous costs, you can see that's where I pulled for the wages and the other expenses that were a little bit higher than expected.
What are you getting for the from the promotional materials and the marketing and the website? What value are you getting?
What was that?
What value are you getting from the promotional materials and the website?
The website is almost a for sure guaranteed question on any grant application. You have to have a website to even try and apply for any kind of grants, especially through larger entities. So we have a basic website. However, she does have a whole to-do list of things that she's planning on updating, such as employee bios and things like that. As well as we're trying to upload a photo gallery of the trees that we have done. She also created our Facebook page and has done a lot on the Facebook page for getting us out there, just word of mouth and things like that. Plus the promotional materials, the signs that go in front of people's houses, let people know exactly where those trees came from and who they were funded by. So you'll see some houses around town, they'll have a sign saying, funded by trees provided by Dixie Fire Canopy Project, funded by the Arbor Day Foundation and FedEx. But then you'll see other signs in front of other houses that will say Dixie Fire Collaborative and North Valley Community Foundation at the bottom. That's just kind of to show exactly which trees came from which entities.
Okay.
Okay, I think we'll go with Danny, and then we'll kind of move on a little bit here, if that's possible.
Yeah, I truly support the idea of a website, but also saying the one thing with the website, you have to be careful to not let it go stale. So you're putting up the new pictures you'll have of how trees you planted and such will definitely help. So it's not just we have the website, it's done. It sounds like that's what you're doing, which is great. Just kind of helps support that. I think there was a question of how much value it is. It is valuable, the website, if it's updated. The one thing that I'm looking at in your budget and how it was spent and such, and you just mentioned Arbor Day and FedEx, but doesn't show how those funds were used. We know you received it, but how were those funds used? And one of the questions, in the equipment and the personnel, if you had the 100K, would you have hired twice as many people, got twice as much equipment? That's all at once. Sorry, the shotgun.
No, sir. We would have had our same amount of people. So like I believe I mentioned this in the previous request. The very first request is that the Alliance for Workforce Development has provided the funding to pay our workers their wages. So I only have one person on my crew who they pay 50% of their wages, and I'm responsible for the other 50%. It's called a DOJ, or OJT, on the job training. And then my other employees are WEX employees and their work experience. So we're using a youth program where we have an 18-year-old and a 19-year-old, and they're getting work experience to help build their resumes for better jobs and things like that. And then as well as our project lead, he's an on-the-job training. So he's getting that because he's kind of a leader and he's doing the training himself. So again, his payroll I was not able to, scale that up or down because his pay is going to be pretty set in stone when I did hire him. But no, I don't have any intentions on hiring any more crew members at this point because they're doing such a wonderful job out there doing this planting and everything like that. And they're getting the job done and they're doing it pretty quickly if I had to say so. So
Awesome.
they're
Thanks.
doing great. Yeah. And then the Arbor Day Foundation, the budget in there that I submitted to the reporting, it looks pretty similar, only they had provided 15,000 paired with FedEx of 30,000. So those numbers were a little bit different. You would see a lot of the same things, the promotional materials, the shovels, we tried to purchase things locally. So the prices were a little bit higher. We bought a lot of things from Hunter Hardware. However, a lot of those were wooden shovels. And so quite a few of those broke, as well as, we had a wheelbarrow, the tire blew out and the trees were too heavy we had a dolly and one of the tires blew out there as well. So it was a lot of,
yeah, that's what
unexpected.
I think people, yeah, you're gonna go through material, you're gonna go through equipment and
Yeah,
whatnot. It's gonna have to
especially
go
in this
there.
work. So
Greg, do you have a question?
Yeah, the last question that I've got is, I got a message from Jason today and about the community garden. I'm wondering, is that a completely separate project from the canopy project? I wanted to know if I wanted to like donate my property to the community garden. So, I mean, are any of these funds going to go to that?
No, that's something that we're just we're just in the talks about.
Mhm.
We're dabbling in it. We're
Mhm.
looking at all options and we're just kind of reaching out. I don't know exactly what maybe he said to you, but yeah, we are very actively looking for a great location to put a community garden in, with
Mhm.
multiple partners that we're looking for. So I'm actively looking. That's completely different.
Totally
That's
different.
yeah,
Right.
completely different. This
All right.
funding here would go specifically to that budget, and hopefully we would blow those tree numbers out of the water this time.
Okay.
Okay, we'll cover that at another time when we know more. Okay. With that, Michaela, thanks for joining us, and then the team can kind of discuss a little bit more further and kind of talk amongst themselves here.
Okay, thank you guys very much, and I hope you have a
Thanks for
great rest of your
joining
day.
us. Yeah, you too. Have a nice day.
Take care.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Camilla.
Thanks.
Team, I don't necessarily want to table that for right now, but I do want to just kind of have a quick timeout on that. Adam Cox, the general manager from the Community Services District. Oh, Michaela, looks like you're still logged in.
Yeah.
Never mind. From the Indian Valley Community Services District, he's here to share information on the EPA's Community Change Grant and potentially ask for essentially a match in terms of the funding to contract with a grant writing consultant on the EPA Community Change Grant. So I know he's pressed for time, so I'll turn it over to Mr. Cox. Go
Hi,
ahead.
thank you. Thank you, Patrick. Hi, everyone. Yes, Adam Cox here from IBCSD. I do just want to let everyone know I have a really hard stop at 4 to jump on another call about this project. So my apologies if I have to jump off before all questions get answered, if there are any. But just wanted to update you guys. I think most of you might be aware that last winter, Plumas County and IBCSD partnered. Plumas County wrote a grant for the for the Community Resilience Center funding that the Strategic Growth Council, the California Strategic Growth Council, had been offering. We put forth a pretty strong grant application. However, when everything shook out, we were just a couple points below where we needed to be to make it past their funding threshold. And we did have a good breakout session with them afterwards to learn more what we could do better in a future cycle. However, that being said, we kind of decided to pivot. We don't want to lose momentum. And so another opportunity was recently brought up to us that the EPA of all agencies has what's called a community change grant, and you can ask for up to $20 million to do both design and or construction for community facilities like this. There is an emphasis on recreation facilities, which is conceptually a big part of this town center project that we're calling it. I'm trying to get away from the CRC nomenclature. I think it confuses some people. But we have talked about an indoor recreation and aquatic center as part of this campus project, town center campus, along with professional suites for IBCSD and county services. We've been having really good discussions with the county library, with public health, behavioral health, social services, and of course, then replacing some of the other spaces that we lost in the fire, like the community center, a gathering place, an assembly place with a stage, sound system, etc. Also a community kitchen, and other facilities that can be used to kind of double up as emergency facilities if the need arises. And so what we are doing is we are going to aggressively pursue this community change grant, and we are going to ask for the maximum 20 million. It is due in November, which in the world of grants is just right around the corner, right? And it's a very large grant application, very heavy lift. And so we did decide it was going to be best to bring in a professional grant writer. We found some grant writing firms who have written community change, successfully written community change grant applications. The grant's been open for about a year now, which is kind of another reason, but we just found out about it, but it's kind of another reason we want to get started sooner rather than later, is that they're being awarded on a rolling basis, right? So money is already leaving the kitty. And so we don't want to be last in line when nothing's left, right? And we don't want to wait till the deadline in November. But we did interview 2 firms who have successfully written community change grant applications. We narrowed it down. Actually, our preferred grant writer is Arcadis. And if that name sounds familiar, it is because they are currently doing a couple different things for Plumas County. Arcadis actually just got, it's technically a county grant, but for the benefit of IBCSD, Arcadis just secured a $499,999 or $500,000 grant for IBCSD in the county to study some ways to better use Round Valley Reservoir, be it for resiliency and or perhaps some different recreation ideas. And so they are a pretty good team that we have been working with. Get to the dollars and cents. Arcadis gave us a very solid proposal on their services. It came out to basically a not to exceed of $38,000. And so what we are trying to do at IBCSD is look for partners that we can partner with. And I do have a commitment from my board to fund 19,000 or half of it, up to 19,000 or half of it. And so we are looking for community partners to help us with that other bit, so that we can, hopefully leverage a $20,000 investment, $40,000 investment into a $20 million project would be ideal. And so that's really what we are here, or I'm here today to ask you to consider. Time is of the essence, not asking for a decision right now. I know that's not how you work, but time is very important, is of the essence. And the project that we have right now is still very conceptual. We know roughly about how many square feet, probably going to be 3, maybe 4 buildings. A couple of those buildings are probably going to need to be 2-story. We have a very rough idea of what kind of programs that we might have there. Just explain some of that to you with some of the different tenants and the services they might offer. This is also really going to be kind of the crown jewel. IBCSD and IVRPD, Recreation and Parks District, have been working hand in glove lately to launch a true recreation program in the Valley. And recreation, not just for kids. We want to serve recreation to people of all ages. And this is kind of envisioned in my mind as being kind of the crown jewel of the future of recreation in the Valley. And also, ideally, a draw, if we were to do everything to competition size, competition, swimming pool, etc., a draw perhaps for regional competitions to draw some folks into town. So also just a little bit of economic driver. But that's where we're at. If we were awarded the EPA change grant, we would then fully go into design. We would start having those community conversations, start getting a little bit more serious with potential tenants or partner organizations. So this really is not something set in stone right now. Luckily for us, the community change grant is not one of those grants that requires you to already have, 70% designs or anything like that. It's designed very much to be flexible for communities. So with that, I will stop talking and entertain questions, concerns, comments.
Hey, Adam, just to be clear, could you restate exactly what you're asking for from the district?
So absolutely, Patrick,
amount?
our concrete ask is that you would consider funding up to $19,000, which is half of the grant writing, the not to exceed grant writing cost of $38,000.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, questions for Adam? Some of the background too is what's going on in parallel is the ad hoc subcommittee with Supervisors Goss and McGowan looking at the county funds, again, back to that $7.8 million from PG&E and the $1,766,000 in insurance funds, specifically those monies being used directly to fund something that was a replacement value or something comparable to the town hall and the library. So those ad hoc meetings have been pretty clunky, to be perfectly honest. To be candid, it's been very hard to get through in the 2.5 hour ones that we've done the last 2 weeks. It's been good because what has been good is kind of getting that bullseye tighter and tighter and tighter into at least what is in the realm of possibility as it goes to replacing some of the county footprint that was once here. And there's receptivity across the county director, department heads, I would say. So like behavioral health, public health, social services, and the library. Dora Mitchell, who's the director of the public library, she even had a sort of an example concept of a lot of libraries these days that do provide these multiple function facilities because of just the traffic that libraries tend to get, and then it can be used to help with social services. Deborah Lucero brought up the point too that some of the county has a difficult time providing their support to Chester, and if people are driving from Chester to Quincy, that's even worse than Indian Valley to Quincy. Right. So if the county is able to have space available here in Greenville, it's kind of the staff transits 30 minutes, 25 miles from one direction, and then patrons from Chester, Hamilton Branch, East Shore, etc., Canyon Dam are then able to receive services here in Greenville. So that was kind of an interesting concept that Deborah brought up as well, which I think is definitely food for thought. As this being sort of a hub for some of these opportunities. And instead of it being like separated across different blocks and street areas, it's basically centralized and different services can be accommodated on different days.
Exactly. The clustering of services is actually a feature that we would want to pursue, just because that's a main reason. EPA, obviously, they're interested in reducing vehicle miles traveled and stuff like that. And so that the more services co-located, the better we probably are off.
Danny, it looks like you've got your hand up.
Yes. So the one thing, just the thing is, you're talking about Chester, then of course, if we're looking to have services they can use, they look at them for sharing costs. So maybe if that's the thing, that's a realistic ask, I believe, if they're to use, we want to be neighborly, but they also would like to see some share of costs. But looking at the idea of Adam and seizing on your comment, crown jewel, and I'm a little bit about buying crown jewels on a pauper's salary and a pauper's population. And I'm looking at, what do you say the population that the IVCSD is serving now, active population, not property owners, like myself, I'm barely getting back. We will start using more water here and services shortly. But what is the current population served, and what's the population in 10 years and 20 years that you're going to be serving, and how are you backing up those estimates?
So, well, of course, we serve more than just Greenville, right? We serve almost the entire Indian Valley with water or sewer, and of course, the entire Indian Valley with fire.
Yeah.
Right now, we have probably about, well, I count things in customer accounts. So we have, about probably around 1,000 different accounts among the 3 communities. I believe last time I looked, we had about 600 to 700 accounts in Greenville proper. The rebuilding rate is actually a really interesting question, and it's something that we are currently already working on, because we are having to look at our water and sewer rates again to make sure that we're charging what we need to be a feasible system. And so our water and sewer rate study that's going on is modeling a relatively conservative build back rate. So I don't have those numbers for you, but those will be presented. When we tie this package up, we'll have a better sense of some forecast modeling of what 10 years and 20 years looks like population wise.
Yeah, I'll say that the customer account is not a good measure. You can see, consumption rate, because you look at those accounts and see what's going on. I know we've been paying for sense of fire on our accounts, and we've just chosen to do that because we don't want to pay the uplift to get reconnected. And some people haven't even doing it, but we have accounts, people have accounts, but they're not necessarily actively utilizing the services of ICVSD. And oh, by the way, when I think of Greenville, I think of the valley. So, but I know that there's a portion that you don't go out through the valley for sewer, the water, there's a portion where it stops and it's not provided. So we have to be careful as to what service is actually being provided by, how far the sewer goes, how far the water goes and such. But I just wanted to have that clarification and make sure that's on the record too as well. But I'm happy to hear that you're looking to get some accurate metrics at that. And so my thing is looking at a building that will suffice with future growth. And as far as providing a competitive swimming pool, I don't know if we need to do that. That was something like you said in passing, but we could grow to that, because how many students do we have in our schools? And how many seniors will we be swimming competitively? But
I think the lens there, Danny, is that it work beyond the county, and then in county. I mean, right now, like an example is like there's an indoor swimming pool in Truckee, which pulls people from all over the area because it's indoors during the winter and people can So to answer your question, how many students are in Plymouth County is roughly about 1,500 from Chester to Portola, and that's elementary and high school included. We'll go to Greg and then we'll go to Matt.
Yeah, I think that I was really similar to Dan. Is there's got to be like 300 people, no matter how many accounts there are, there's got to be like 300 people living in Greenville now. And so building a crown jewel without a tax base to pay for it, so do you have any numbers on what it's going to cost to maintain this building that you want to build? I mean, is there a property tax base in order to fund this? I get it that there's going to be tenants and stuff like that, but is that going to be sufficient?
We will, if we were to successfully get the grant, part of the early work would be doing an operational study just to make sure that we can support the ongoing O&M, the operations and maintenance, to kind of determine what rents do we need.
Figure out if you could afford it. So you want money in order to. So you're asking for money to figure out if you can afford to do this.
Well, part of this, so nothing has been funded yet in this project. So yeah, nothing has been done beyond volunteer time put into it.
Right. Yeah.
And I do have to jump off real quick here, unless there's one more quick question. I'm sorry.
Matt, do you have a quick question here?
Yeah, one quick question. Is there any plan within this planning cycle for potentially planning a septic system in Crescent Mills?
No, that has nothing to do with nothing to do with the sewer system.
Okay.
Okay.
So the answer is yes, Greg, that they're asking for money to find out if they can afford to spend the money.
Right.
All right, thank you, Adam, and yeah, we'll if there are additional questions, which I'm sure there will be, try to roll them up and get them to you so you can follow up with an answer.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, Trina, I see your hand is up. I'm sorry that you probably had a question for Adam, but I can jot it down and it'll be part of the minutes anyway, so I can get it to him. He can follow up, but go ahead with regard to the overall discussion.
Yeah, and it's really not so much a question for Adam because I've been attending some of the meetings. It's more maybe for the rest of the steering committee is well, maybe partly for Adam as well, but to the point made that maybe the Lake Almanor Basin or others might be able to help offset some of the costs. I think that's a really, really good point. And that's kind of the point that I wanted to bring in too, is there might be opportunities for other people that will ultimately be using the facilities if it's possible to reach out to them for some of the funding, or if we do decide to approve the $19,000 ask in its entirety from the DFC funds, that as part of the grant application, that larger partnership is really looked at and solidified to the EPA for a stronger proposal. So those were really more comments than a question.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, the CSD, they might be able to just figure this out on their own. That's why I was asking here. But you know, they could find 4 other entities to pony up, you know, $5,000 and have the money that they need, and they can pursue that because they're their own entity. It's not, you know, it wouldn't be up to the Dixie Fire Collaborative at that point. It would just be
Yeah,
up to
exactly.
their own prerogative. Yeah. Yes, Kim.
Yeah, if this is something that you all want to fund or want us to look at funding, we would need to see a grant request. So if you do decide.
Yeah,
if you have
100%. Yeah,
that you
it's
wanna
not
move
in there.
forward, yeah.
He was coming to here just to kind of like test the waters, right?
Perfect.
In the same way that Michaela months ago came here
Yeah.
to test the waters and then followed up with the actual grant request.
Exactly, yeah,
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
thanks.
All right. Any additional thoughts, comments, questions on that specific topic? And then we can go back to the Dixie Fire Canopy project if there's.
A quick one, Patrick. I just wanted to support what Trina's saying. I guess the broadest support that they could show with their application by parsing it up into 3 people for 5K apiece, which just shows that broadest support, I think would be better for them for the IVCSD as far as when they go into the grant. So yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Yeah, I just also wanted to comment that I think this really aligns with the theme that we've been talking about a lot about leveraging money. This seems like a pretty cheap way to do that, and I'm all for it.
okay. Thank you, Dex. Okay. So I'll try to get any additional information I can from Adam Cox, and then provide it to you this week. And then if it's still a thing, by the next time we meet, and or if there's a sense of urgency, because he did mention that they're trying to get this done. They've got, I mean, it's due no later than November. So if they're working with this with Arcadis, then theoretically they're gonna have to get turning on this. So, you know, I'll see if I can get anything else for you.
So Patrick, just to interrupt, I think if we would encourage him to submit a grant, because as Kim was saying, we have to have a grant request before we can do anything. So I would encourage him to at least submit it. We're not shutting it down. So we can't do anything without a grant request.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I heard. So yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll circle back to the Dixie Fire Canopy project. Was there any more discussion that anybody wanted to have on that? Greg, is there something you want to say, Greg?
No, I'm pretty good. I think the last time when we funded her, the request was for her to come back with some additional funding. She hasn't really done that, but I think that, like looking around the town and stuff like that, I think that she's been doing a pretty good job. So, and I definitely think like, certainly like at the various places where she's put some trees, not just for private homeowners, but like this spot looks a whole lot nicer. Hopefully that draws in business. So that's all. I mean, I think that she's basically doing a pretty good job.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Dax, you have your hand up?
Yeah, so are we operating under the idea that this is just a continuation of her initial grant proposal, or would we need to ask her to submit an additional grant proposal?
That's a good question. Kim, what do you think?
I don't know. I was looking at that because I did go back while she was talking and look, and her original grant proposal, she requested $100,000. And her budget at that time was $400,000. You all voted on 50,000. I mean, the vote didn't say 50,000 now and an additional 50,000, when we see a progress report or an updated budget or whatever. But and I can talk to Bill. I think the grant if you guys all feel real comfortable about this and that something you want to invest another $50,000 into, then, we certainly could process that probably from the original grant application. I would definitely put the budget into that grant application that she just submitted to us. I think it might be nice for her I'd like to just see kind of an overall budget, not just of the 50,000 you gave her, but of, Bill Hubbard, our attorney, is constantly saying this, that we really should look at the fiscal health of the groups we're funding and ask for more than just a budget of how they want to spend our money, but what does their budget look like? So in other words,
It's like a forecast, a budget for what she intends.
Yeah, I mean,
the next 50,000.
like has her overall budget $100,000 and 50 has come from you, and she did mention a few of those other sources.
It sounded like that was in the hundreds of dollars though, because she said there was a tree here and a tree there, which
Yeah, but when
thousands, that's
Well,
hundreds,
but actually-
I think that's tens of dollars.
But actually, Patrick, she had that, I think I count like closer to 45,000 or
Yes.
more. That's what I kind of got. So there's a significant
No,
money.
that's not what I'm talking about, Danny. What I'm talking about is that she said she got some private
Yeah,
Right.
donation.
but
But I'm not telling what I think I'm hearing Kim saying. What I think I'm hearing Kim saying is, what have you done with the money you've received? All the money. We're
Mhm.
talking about that. I believe that's what I'm hearing Kim saying.
yeah, because originally when you asked her, their plan she said the grants they'd received so far was 3,000 from Bradford Journey, Plymouth chapter, 5,000 from Greenville Rotary, 15,000 from Arbor Day, 30,000 from FedEx, and 300 from Quincy. So I guess in my mind, I think it's totally fair for the next step to just say, could we see your overall budget?
Well, I
Year to date, you've been in existence for a year. How much money have you brought in, including R50, and how much of that have you spent? So you can get a sense of like, has this $30,000 from FedEx been spent?
Back to the website question you had, Greg. I mean, that, people have been harping on the information that's on our website, which at least has a treasurer's report and it has the grants. If you go to their website, I mean, again, it's not just the utility in marketing, but it's also the utility in being able to present that information. And looking at the website, there isn't any of that information. There's no mention of FedEx, Arbor Day. There's no mention of the Dixie Fire Collaborative. In fact, there's no mention of funding whatsoever. Which again, I don't know if that's a requirement as a 501c3, but maybe back to speaking to the utility of the website, there's a benefit that she could add a page and put that information there.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
sponsors.
it's available for, yeah. I mean, the big kerfuffle that we've been seeing on Facebook and stuff is kind of a lack of transparency on where the money's going and stuff. So I think that would be a really good piece of advice for her to consider. just putting that up and making it available.
Well, I think of the original thing that I seen, when the initial application came out, an announcement that they were an entity come out, there had on that flyer were all these entities, the people who are providing the support. I saw that on that flyer, but flyer could, be uploaded and shown as there or some modification thereof. So it has been presented in the past, but I'm saying it'd be good to see out there. And I hear what Patrick is actually saying, to have her put some of that there too, to help people understand how it's being spent, but there's some maybe hesitancy, what I could understand possibly, but she should definitely be able to share that with the funding agencies, which I would say we are part of. And I think that's
Okay.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that's good. So going from here, we would like a refined budget moving forward. We would like a better understanding of all the financials and the money that has been contributed to the Dixie Fire Canopy project and how that has been spent previously or allocated previously. Anything else? So those two principal items, is that it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Yeah, I think so. And it's couched in encouraging words, Patrick. It's just couched in, we want to support,
Oh, yeah.
That's all I'm saying. It's not
Yep.
bashing and such.
No, of course not. No, this is yeah, just it helps kind of it helps get to yes. No problem.
Exactly.
When do we want to take a decision on this? Would that be at the next vote, the next call?
That would give us, I mean, the next meeting is scheduled to be on Labor Day, if that's fine for everybody, and we'll talk about that towards the end, but that would be, the soonest next decision would be 2 weeks from today, which would be the 2nd of September.
yeah, I'll be gone.
Or we could deviate and we could go to the 3rd, Tuesday the 3rd. If people, okay. Or we could do this in stride, meaning if I can pull these details and then submit them to you via email, and we could circle up and get a decision in stride, get a quorum together to vote outside of a regularly scheduled meeting. Is that kind of what you're getting at, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, that works. I mean, that I just think we should make a decision sooner rather than later, because I think she's out of money.
Okay.
Patrick, I was saying is that there are times when people aren't here. I know I was gone, so I wasn't able to vote on things. So we don't have to have, everybody here. We have to have a quorum or whatever, but just, I want to have that out on the table as well.
Yeah, no, that's fair, Danny. That's a good point. So, well, for right now, let's just stick with the 2nd of September, because it may take her some time to gather all this information in a consumable document. That's 2 weeks from today. And then if there's a need for it to happen sooner, then we can. Is that fair? Can I get some confirmation from folks?
I'll confirm that, Patrick, and I here lean towards support, but we just want a little bit of information. You can
Some more
send it
clarification.
forward. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
That sounds good, Patrick.
she should be encouraged to get the information to us before the next meeting. If we want to try to vote on it at the next
Yep.
meeting, we need to have that
100%.
down.
Okay. Dax, thank you. I got you. Lida. Okay, so it sounds like we've got consensus in that regard. Okay. Then I'll follow up with her and I'll get that to you sooner than later. All right, so moving on, just in the interest of time, we did receive a grant request from the Indian Valley Thrift Shop Association for a heating and cooling system. So this is something that came through North Valley Community Foundation in a grant request. Bill Hubbard did look into the good standing of the Indian Valley Thrift Shop Association, and found that they were not in good standing because of issues with the Franchise Tax Board, the state's Attorney General's office, of which you need to register with, and then also the Internal Revenue Service. I reached out to the Indian Valley Thrift Shop, and it appears that those systems that Bill consults with may be out of date. because they did provide paper copies of which they had received from those entities, specifically the IRS, stating as much that they're in good standing. So I received that at the end of last week, Kim.
Okay,
And I was going to send it on to Bill to look at just to make sure that it does pass the test there,
okay.
to even consider their grant request. Their grant request is for roughly $7,500. The building that they, I believe, bought from the Plymouth Unified School District is a modular, used to be a classroom facility that was at the Taylorsville Elementary School, I believe. No. Kest is gonna set us straight.
Greenville.
It was at Greenville. Okay, so it was at Greenville. But the heating and cooling system no longer works. They've been fine right now because the days have actually been all right. But they did have some hotter days there where they're just running a lot of fans and whatnot. It of course will become an issue eventually in the cooler months, the colder months of winter. So just as a reminder, the Indian Valley Thrift Shop Association is not a business. It is a nonprofit organization, hence the making sure that they're in good standing. And they're staffed by volunteers. And then anything that they make at the thrift shop typically goes back into the form of community grants or donations to youth programs, scholarships, etc. They did lose, they rented space from Ranley Hovland on Main Street, so they lost the thrift shop. It was along Main Street in the fire. And then this is the sequel to the thrift shop of where they're located now. So they do have that grant request in. I do want to bounce off the IRS paperwork that I received from him at the end of last week from Bill Hubbard. But more than likely bring their grant request to the next meeting once I confirm that all of that paperwork is in order, and they could even proceed with, if y'all just determine that they'd even be able to receive the money. Yes, Danny, you have a question?
Yeah, Patrick, I would like to think that maybe we could possibly look at that to be approved at the next meeting, as opposed to just initial reading and such thereof. So just
Yeah.
a suggestion. So
Absolutely happy to tee that up, Danny. That's kind of what I wanted to at least give you the heads up now, so that folks could kind of have it in the back of their mind so they didn't get surprised by it. But yeah, absolutely.
and so as soon as you get a grant request, as soon as it gets the high sign from Bill Hubbard, if you send out that grant request so we can review it before the meeting, a week before, so that'd be awesome. I'd like
Yes,
to
sir.
move forward. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. We'll do. Any questions or comments? Any additional questions or comments?
And I would just say too, with any of these grant requests, we're happy to share them with you unless you want to do them by yourselves. Just kind of maybe let us know, let Patrick know, so then when we approve it, oftentimes our approval is based on your approval, because if you guys don't think it's a good idea, we want to know why. We're more apt to do something if you want to do it. And then sometimes there are things you're like, no, we feel really strongly about this. We just kind of want it to be just us. Or from an optic standpoint, we'd like to see this funded, but we don't want it to be us. Could you fund it? So any of those could really be true. So, just kind of let us know too how you feel about these. Sometimes with smaller ones like this, I think, we could do it out of one or the other. It doesn't matter if we just think it's important to do. But happy to share any of these requests with you all.
On that note, I think we should be seen as part of this one.
Yeah.
If not whole.
Yeah. Yeah. But
yeah, so then if it's a 50-50 share of roughly $7,500, I mean, that's,
yeah.
I mean, Danny, I think from what you briefed the other day, I mean, the interest that posted for the month was like 6,700.
About 50 some 5,000 some odd.
Okay.
And same thing for, if we do see a request and you really feel strongly about it from, trying to do that community change application, and you want more organizations involved, we could certainly look at that with you. And the Dixie Fire Canopy project. We all want to see our funds put to good use. And if you guys feel strongly about something and say, this is really working, then that's really our kind of, you're our go-to group. And it's not like the money's really flying off the shelves. You know, we're really looking for meaningful things to be involved in.
Thank you for that elaboration, Kim.
Mhm.
Okay. So moving on to some of the, kind of picking up the conversation from the last meeting, and just, again, we had some folks that were in and out. Wanted to follow up on a couple of the items that had been shared by the subcommittee. So we had economic development, housing, grant writing, community projects, and just any additional discussion that needed to occur. I did receive from Kaylee on Friday the kind of the brainstorming session that Marcia, Kest, and Clint had. So let me see where that is again. All right. It's a spreadsheet. But I just so y'all have it. Have there been any additional developments? Actually, Kim, there was one thing I wanted to kind of follow up on the issue of economic development, if you're still with us. All right, maybe not. Maybe she had to take a phone call. There was, oh, Kim, yes, hi.
sorry.
So I was looking at the NVCF annual report.
Mhm.
And there was kind of an excerpt towards the last page, or not the last page, but a few of the last pages where Dave Little, who's he's the executive vice president of NVCF. And there's a portion in there devoted to some of the economic development work that NVCF has contributed towards to other various like Butte County entities. And you're just kind of curious because this has been a little bit of a head scratcher, right? Because usually this sort of gets translated into, there's roughly $1.5 million left that's been posited that potentially, some why can't we give that money to individuals and businesses directly? And then of course there's the federal tax code prohibits that with around tax exempt organizations, but looking at to see what those economic development possibilities are, and if Dave has had, I don't know, experience working with other organizations on what those programs were, and if anything like that could be replicated. I was looking at the report, and it didn't have a lot of specifics. It just it spoke just in kind of big overarching sort of goals and things like that. So I didn't know if there was an opportunity where maybe, I don't know if Dave needs to come to a meeting, but just even like an email thread that we could kick off to see what those avenues are.
The Colusa County one that he's referring to primarily in this annual report is I believe it was a state grant, could have been a federal grant on economic development in Colusa County and job creation and what they could do. So there was actually a grant that was funded that ran through our foundation. And then he participated in bringing a lot of the different smaller communities together in Colusa County to kind of talk about what are some economic development things we could do. So, I mean, I could certainly, and that, and then hopefully that leads to other things that can, leads to job growth and different things like that. But that kind of like our drought project in Glenn County was kind of all around a grant that was funded just to do that.
Okay. I'm just putting in the chat there, just put a link to the Plymouth Sun. There's an article written by Lindsay Morton specifically on tourism and the economy, and it just kind of gives kind of an overview of some of the organizations and entities that are kind of focusing on some of the tourism and recreation economy. chiefly being the Feather River Tourism Board or Association rather. And then just some of the other players. So just something for folks to take a look at and see if it sparks anything. Okay, so but if, in case for the benefit of the broader audience, in case you weren't there 2 weeks ago, Kaylee just kind of did a once around the world on that brainstorming sheet on some of the opportunities, but the sort of the foot stomper, like what's the point here, is that community kind of resonated, or that committee rather resonated with, what are the ways that we can reinforce business development and potentially help spur on some type of local economy. One of the things that was pointed out was a lack of childcare. So now for those that are employed, what do they do with their kids? But then also the flip side of that is that there are employment opportunities for home childcare providers, right? Which is, if you've ever had any experience with that, a lot of people can do pretty well with it. And so not only does it create a number of employment options, but then it also presents it actually helps satisfy a need for those that do have difficulty with young ones throughout the day and what to do, and so that they can get to work and stuff like that. So those are some of the other elements. Marcia, anything that you'd like to kind of touch on as one of the committee members?
Well, Haley and I talked this weekend. We didn't get together because I had the flu, but we went over Kest and Sherry's list that they gave us. And it says necessary businesses that are likely to succeed. And it's just kind of good to keep these in the back of our mind. So a mechanic, childcare, brewery, campground, hair salon, landscape maintenance, playground, motel, hotels. And then businesses not likely to succeed would be gift shop, gallery, Maidu Cultural Center, gym, ice cream, law office, helicopter school. Already exist but may need our help: the hardware store, the coffee shop, grocery store, real estate office, church, thrift store, pharmacy. And then outside of our scope, schools, sheriff, fire station, post office, bank, town hall. So when we're thinking about businesses, but what our community really needs.
Yeah, but I guess what I always wonder about this is like, then who opens that bit? Like, do you just walk up to somebody and say, hey, you should open up a hair salon? Like, don't you have to sort of have like that sort of entrepreneurial, like, I don't know, like spark to want to do that, and then presume the market will bear it? That's what I always have a tough time with it when someone says, well, we need more businesses. It's like, well, what's the market right now? Right now, I can tell you that there's a bustling construction economy here. No, and I'm not being funny about that, because that's the market right now, right? And so like one of our construction companies are employing, at any time 8 to 10 people plus 6 to 8 different subcontractors, right? So that's nothing to sneeze at, because that's where we are. Like that's where the enterprise is right now. But like, if I said that I wanted to open up a car dealership, what kind of market would be there in Greenville, California for a car? It wouldn't be a very good place to sell a car, like, or have a car lot, right? Because there's no market for that right here. So that's what I guess I scratch my head at, of like, there are businesses, and a lot of these are focused on like retail. So that's a missing sector, I guess, but there's reasons to support why that's missing. There's 3 retail spaces in Crescent Mills right now. There's 2 owned by Matt and 1 by Lisa Forcino. And so I wonder, like, if there was the need for a retail space, that somebody had they had a business idea that supported that market, there is an opportunity. There are opportunities for it to happen. Anyway, I'm sort of saying this rhetorically, like I don't have an answer for it, and I don't think anybody else does. But
Kest has his hand up.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I'm not muted. Okay. So I'm not sure where, Marcia, you said that some of those were likely to succeed or others were unlikely to succeed. Did you and Kaylee determine that? Because that was not our list.
It was on an Excel spreadsheet that,
Okay, so
that Kaylee said you gave us, but
I just want to say, some of those businesses that you listed is not likely to succeed or likely to succeed. I don't think that those categories were necessarily good, but I do think, in answer to Patrick, what we were looking at is businesses that a community needs. You can't just order them from Amazon, kind of thing. So right now, Kevin Neff has retired. There's no mechanic in the valley that I know of, and people need to keep their cars running. So they either need to drive somewhere, or we need to, we have an opportunity for a mechanic to run a shop here.
I got you. Okay, so it's
think
more
that-
like, yeah, the
so-
landscape, the environment is suitable for this type of thing.
Right, and small communities need some of those things. You need a place to go eat. You need a place to go to the bank. You need a grocery store, those kinds of things. That's what that list was all about. You maybe don't need a brewery, but that seemed like something that small communities
draw.
helps them with attracting people to come through. The other piece that I want to add, and then I'll stop, is that we know that we have not been able to find in 3 years people here in the valley that want to start those businesses. Working with the Indian Valley Innovation Hub, we've beat that drum and tried to get people to show up and tried to help them, and we just haven't found people locally. So in order to find people to do those things, I'm of the opinion that we need to go out and try to recruit from places where businesses are competing with each other, and it's hard to run a small business because we do have an opportunity here for people, and they may not know it. So somebody that would like to run a mechanic shop, a car repair place here, or they're trying to do it in Chico, or they're trying to do it in Truckee, and there's too much competition, they can come here, and if we can recruit them to take a risk on us. So those are my two statements.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, just, somebody that has the experience and then the potential like opportunities to extend their business elsewhere, and they're looking for a new market just to break into. Okay, yeah, thanks for providing some context there. Danny, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I think I heard what I've heard the listen going through, and actually hearing Cass there as well is looking at things to encourage, looking at encouragement, and I think that's what it is. And also, the recruiting, I see that, Cass, and say, something goes out as far as we recently lost, we didn't, our last mechanic, we need a mechanic here, there's a place for you to walk into, or something along that line, as far as those advertising or recruiting labels, somehow to get people out there. And we're starting, we got X number of houses built, now we need more people here to help support those houses. Anyway, I think it's great, the idea of the encouraging side.
Yeah, so, and I put another link in the chat. It's the La Sierra Chamber of Commerce, and they have this relocation package, move in, and I shared this before, and it's definitely a start. I know that the Chamber Coalition is trying to do more along these lines. I don't know what exactly. And it's not, and that's not a criticism. Like I know that they're trying to kind of think tank this a little bit more to find what avenues are most that think that it can be most successful. So there could be some opportunities to reinforce that with regard to in the burn scar communities, but just the overall county and the development there with any sort of program or project that some of these entities are working on, that maybe they just need a little bit of investment of time and energy and their own sort of capital. But it's things to think about. On the housing front, or what else on the economic development front? Does anybody else have anything else to add?
I'd actually like to join the economic development subcommittee instead of housing one. I've got more passion for economic development. So just putting that out there.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I don't know that I think you can do that, Matt. So no problem.
I think housing is really, really tough. I mean, without an economy, I mean, we were just talking about, giving the incentives to people to come in and start a business, but if they don't have a place to live, so, I'm not really sure, like, did Kes talk about any housing plan when you guys were talking to him about the economics?
Yeah, Kes, I can give you a background on last week's housing council meeting, the Plymouth County Housing Council, and just give you a kind of a rundown of what they've been talking about.
All right.
As far as what we were talking about, we recognize you have two different committees. You have the economic development and you have housing. Housing is absolutely critical to make anything happen. It's not like we're thinking that you need to do economic development and forget about housing. So nothing's going to happen without houses for people to live in.
Right.
So on that front, the Plymouth Housing Council, which has been kind of kickstarted by the Amador Foundation, they're looking at a number of things. Not only had they been looking at the sort of the housing study that they did earlier in the spring, but by roping in Sierra Pacific Industries, Collins, Seneca, Plymouth District Hospital, the potentially Plymouth Unified School District as well, because I think they're interested in housing development, FRC to some degree, and the U.S. Forest Service. So by having sort of the larger groups of employers and having them involved to define their housing needs, both for their, in a lot of cases of those groups that I just mentioned are their employees or their staffs. And then to some degree, FRC is still sort of grappling not only with staff and staff housing, but then also student housing as well, because I think there's something like that. They're at like 175% capacity right now with what the student housing that they have available with the amount of students they have enrolled. So that rate housing. So a couple of developers, there's a development group that actually, one of the gentlemen, his name's Kelly Konzelman. He's actually now on the board of the Campfire Collaborative. RRA is the name of their development company, Ridge. I'll find it. But so they've done some work in the Paradise area. They've come up to Plymouth County now since January. They came to our contractors fair in January, and then they came up again in the beginning of the summer or in July, and then again this last week to present to the Housing Council. They have a couple of interesting ideas, one of which, this is where they started a number of months ago, is that they run a program in Paradise right now where they've been able to build homes through the Home Buyers Assistance Program that the town of Paradise has. There's an opportunity to be able to work a Home Buyers Assistance Program with the Plymouth County Community Development Commission. The director of that organization is Roger Diefendorf, and he apparently has been trying to kind of pick the brains of those in Paradise to see how that program can be replicated.
Didn't you tell me that they rejected that the county didn't want to get involved in it?
They did. It's not so much they rejected it; they never started it. I think it was the idea that they wanted to do it, but when I emailed Roger about it in the spring, because I never knew of such a thing, and actually it was this gentleman Kelly Konzelman from that building department who just kind of gave me the 5 W's on how all that works, and so then I followed up. And it's in the Plymouth County 2019 housing element. Element number 12 talks about our first-time homebuyers assistance program. However, when I asked, I said, hey, is this something you guys are still going to pursue? And all good reasons, right? And it really came down to the amount of people that they have to devote to this type of stuff. They don't have many people, they don't have a huge staff, so it's a capacity issue. And when they made this when they made this declaration of something that they wanted to do, that this was something they wanted to do. Then 2020 hit, and so they got sidelined by COVID and being able to do that. And then they got sidelined by the Dixie Fire, and it just hasn't been something they were able to kind of pick back up. So hopefully there's enough sort of ignition in this process now because people are talking about it, and there's an opportunity. But the opportunity could be is that, you know, I don't know how all this would work, but the opportunity could be is that Dixie Fire Collaborative helps fund the startup of that. And maybe, you know, there could be the potential that if you all wanted to fund a manager that could help run a home buyers assistance program or down payment assistance program rather, on behalf of that entity. I know Clint Cobley has been talking a lot with Roger and has been looking into the down payment assistance program himself, and is looking to pursue that with Roger as well. The other piece that this company was interested in is not so much anything with regard to home ownership, but rentals and multifamily housing in the order of tens of units, and not in a sort of traditional sort of apartment building sort of construction, but multifamily housing that kind of had the look and the feel and aesthetic of the area to provide tens of units, you know, ideally suited for, you know, single adults, maybe couples, etc., as a way to get residents, right? So as these larger organizations that we just described, everybody from the mill to the Forest Service, you're somebody between the ages of 22 and early 30s, maybe no kids or maybe a kid, and the opportunity to rent for a while, get to know the area, and then potentially pursue other home ownership through, you know, construction loans or a down payment assistance program or other things, right? So kind of a layered approach, and not always thinking that everything's got to be home ownership, but for younger employees across the county, maybe rentals are really hard to come by here. So if there was a rental units in each community, you know, that you get transplanted up here with Caltrans or CHP or whomever, PG&E, you're a lineman, and then it's like, yeah, I can rent for 2 or 3 years and get to know the area, and then potentially, you know, build a home. So that's another sort of idea that they were floating. So that's just general information. I think the Almanor Foundation is kind of collating all this information, and when I get it as a summary, I'll send it all out to you.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
Go ahead. No, nothing. I just sort of feel like I fell down in the last 2 weeks because the fires had me wigged out, so I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, no problem. It's a good reason, and I totally get it. Matt, yeah, you have your hand up, Matt.
Yeah, so as part of the Almanor Foundation thing, it sounds like that they don't want to provide for the 80% and below AMI. So this is the poorer people in our communities. That there's a reluctance for providing building homes for these guys, and I don't know why, because also they said that there's more money. There's like money available for RCAC for that lower income demographic, and then there's also other grants available. Do you know why they're not considering this? Because at the moment, none of their proposals just don't make any sense. The only thing they came up with is like 5-unit ADU, junior ADU kind of thing, and it seemed kind of messy versus like, I mean, a normal multifamily thing would be like a fourplex or something like that, like one building with four apartments in there, and you would like 80% AMI should be okay, you know? Like, do you know why? What was the reluctance to serve the 80% AMI and under, and what benefit does that bring? Almanor?
So, to be honest, I wouldn't say that there's a reluctance to serve that. It's just that, like you just mentioned, because there's federal and state grants that will support building through for low income families and personnel. Those programs exist right now, and in fact, that's how the Recover California piece is working specifically to that end. And then right now, our own housing authority, that's where they focus all their efforts right now. So each community has low-income housing, from Portola to Chester, and that's Roger Diefendorf's that's his main mission and purpose right now, is the low-income housing vouchers that they process on behalf of the 80% AMI and below. So I don't think that there's reluctance for it, but at this point, it's also trying to speak to the community of what if you're not in that, and then it's still difficult to maybe get a home loan or a construction loan, and you're 32 years old, married with 2 kids, and to be able to buy a $500,000 home, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, because that's what the rate is, or the concept of a starter home is kind of gone, even here. So it's workforce affordable housing. The glossary of terms gets a little jumbled, but it's really attainable housing for people that are making a median income, because that seems to be a difficult nut to crack right now, and that's been validated from a lot of our employers. So that's why those industry leaders are at the table, is because PDH, they're going to build a skilled nursing facility and they have no place to put skilled nurses. There's no housing in Quincy for them. So cart before the horse, they'll have this brand new facility, and then where do they put a 6-month traveling nurse? They don't have a place for them to go. And then FRC they've said that it's difficult for them to attract professors and instructors, because it's really hard for them to find a home. That's all.
Do you think there's opportunities? So I mentioned it in the meeting, the previous one, but that there's a lot of homes in Indian Valley that are unoccupied, and a lot of them, talking to some of the owners, like they're reluctant to rent them out to regular people because it's not worth it. They think there's too much hassle. They might have to get evicted. They're only going to get $1,000 a month. It's not worth it, and so they're empty, and then the idea of, well, there's no point building new houses when we've got all these empty houses. Couldn't we do something like a master lease where DFC or something organizes it?
I have no idea. Yeah, I mean, I think that's like, to me, I don't know that there's any there's not like one proprietary blend of herbs and spices here that's going to do it. I mean, it's like 14 different things and different levels of income layers that everybody needs housing, right? I mean, like there isn't just one program that's going to solve all this, right? So there needs to be low income housing. There needs to be, middle income, lower middle class to upper middle class housing. There needs to, I mean, it's all part of the system. So yeah, I mean, is there an appetite for that? Yeah, and I think you should kind of share a thorough plan. Like, I think that's something that the Housing Council would benefit from, is just hearing another idea. That's, some way to innovate on some of the things that already exist. So if you want to share that, I think you should.
Okay.
I think we had Kest and Sherry up, and then Danny.
Right. So I've said this before, but when I listened to what you were saying, Patrick, I just want to say again that the idea that a starter home no longer exists and you have to spend $500,000 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house is just not true. The Indian Valley Construction, you can go down Hot Springs Road. They just finished building a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. It has a carport that's designed so that it can eventually, if the homeowner wants, can become a bedroom. So you end up with a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, and that's a $300,000 to $325,000 house. So you talk to Ryan and Todd, and they can build those. They said they can build them all day long. That's not.
Keston, I'm not disputing that. I was
Okay.
exaggerating. I was exaggerating. I'm not disputing that, but I'd also say that some people have gotten, quoted out at $500,000 or $500 a square foot, right? That's pretty expensive. And so I'm not here to rain on the parade of the construction market in Indian Valley, but I do know there are some companies that are building at $500 a square foot. And I do know that there are companies that are not, and that's the market. And I'm not here to that's not my business. It's their business, and that's competition. And if one company can do it for less, great. Then a homeowner should pursue that if that's in their budget, And that's all I'm saying is that. But if you look, talking to Cassie and Alicia, right? There are some houses that are really expensive to buy, houses that are already built, and the market it's expensive right now, and it's hard to get a mortgage at with the way interest rates are right now until like the Fed meets again, and if there's going to be any drop, but it's hard. It's hard when you make like $65,000 a year. Danny, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just like to see if we could pass Matt's idea through Bill Hubbard. Just, is that idea what he's talking about? Something that would pass that test and being as that master leaseholder that he's talking about. So if we put a little something descriptive together and have that pass through Bill before we get too far down the road, is it possible?
Well, and if it's not is there a better organization to do that as well? Maybe it's not even us, maybe it's somebody else.
Right, just to support the idea but anyway.
Yeah. Dax, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so I guess I must have missed, I hadn't heard of the housing council prior to this, and I was just wondering if you, is there like a meeting schedule that they have, or how does that work?
Yeah, as soon as I get the roll up, I'll send it out to you, and then I'll just, I'll defer to them. I think Alicia Wilson does their scheduling, so I can send everybody's email address to her if you all just want to be included on their meetings. If that helps. That way, if it's something that you can attend, and they do a Zoom option.
How long has that been going on? Do you know?
I think if the September meeting will be like their third or fourth meeting. They did one in March, and then they were kind of gapped a little bit. And then I know they did one I think they did one in June, July, and August now. So maybe the September one will be their fifth one.
Yeah, well, I think the more people and groups that can put their heads together on that issue, the better. So
Absolutely.
sounds like a good forum.
100%. I'll send that over to them so that you guys just get included on their invitee list.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay. So that's another example of just like another organization that's kind of moving out on things. And like I said, I haven't really perceived that anything is proprietary at this time. So they seem to be open to a lot of different ideas. And if somebody's got a good idea, they can help kind of move it forward with the connections that they've already developed in this brief time. Grant writing. Does anybody want to share anything about grant writing? Trina, Lida? I can fill in the blanks if necessary.
Yeah, I have not been in touch with Trina since I got back from my trip, so I don't know.
No problem.
There is.
Trina, take it away.
Yeah, so I think we brought this up in the last meeting, but we reached out to Elisa Brown with Sierra Nevada Conservancy, and she is willing to adjust her schedule to be able to accommodate a free grant writing workshop for us or for Plumas County, and which would be 3 days. It has to be 3 consecutive days. And she's looking at target dates of the end of September or in October. And in order to participate, you have to sign up. She needs a minimum of 10 people to make it viable and a maximum of 15 people. And it is pretty intensive. And when you come, you have to have a project, and it can be a make-believe project, but I think there's enough going on with everything people are doing that there's the concept of developing a real project with an expert is pretty phenomenal. It can be everything from housing to starting a coffee shop to whatever, and so I think that is, I know, Patrick, you sent an email out, but for people that maybe didn't understand that or had further questions, you know, please ask them now and I can forward them on to Elisa or clarify anything for you. But again, to me, that's a huge opportunity. I feel that this group and others, I'm very versed in nonprofits and have worked with nonprofits most of my life. But I'm going to take it because I could definitely use a touch up. And it is open to anybody. And I thought, you know, if we could get more capacity and more understanding in our communities, and it doesn't just have to be like the Dixie Fire SCAR or the Beckworth Complex SCAR. It can be anybody that really wants to learn those skills. And then along the line of grant writing, from my understanding, from having worked in it, like with the Dixie Fire Collaborative, there's been a lot of back and forth of what to do with the money and other things. And when you apply for a grant, you have to be very clear on what you're applying for and what your project is. And having that clarity is of the essence, because basically you're telling a story of why your project should be funded. And sometimes it's very competitive with other people who are telling stories as well. And then attaching a very solid budget with that is part of it. So you have to be a storyteller, or, you know, but you also need to, and some people, like I can tell a story really good. I struggle with putting the budget together. So I'm like, okay, I really could use some more help with that kind of thing. And like with the housing, with economic development, with all of those types of funds, and with the Dixie Fire Collaborative still having $1.4 million, I see that as, you know, I grit my teeth when people are like, let's just give it away and be done, which is a viable, you know, but I'm like, let's leverage it and do more because I know that can be done. So, so like just narrowing down to housing, but maybe the Elmore Foundation champions that and takes that on. You know, to me, that Indian Valley Community Services District of asking for $38,000, that is actually leveraging the funding to me, because if they're able to get 20 million, that would be an asset to our community, or 10 million or 5 million. And especially if we could break it down and each of us pay 4.5, you know, between 4 organizations that would pay, then we could leverage it even more. So that to me is an example of leveraging funding. And like with the Dixie Fire Canopy project, I've worked with Michaela quite a bit, you know, offline, and looking at different concepts and different pots of money. And it's like, okay, you know, does it really need to come out of the DFC money when I know that there's other funding out there? Because she does have a very specific, I think, very fundable project. And, you know, it's a matter of researching and finding the right funders. And that's also another thing that Elisa Brown, through Sierra Nevada Conservancy, which is a state organization, offers, is she will help research grants for people. And she's very, very good at it. And so if you go through this process and this training, or even if you don't, if Patrick was like, you know, we're just really, can I reach out to you and talk to you because we're really looking at funding and we're just not quite sure where to go to. She would help with that if she had time. So that's kind of where we've been with grant funding, and Lyda and Shelby and I will get together again and put our heads together. It's been pretty chaotic with the park fire. Shelby's assigned to it. Lyda's home that we had the retreat in Warner Valley was under evacuation. It's been kind of
But it's
crazy.
not anymore.
Yay, that's so exciting.
Hey,
But if people
yeah,
have
good
questions, yes,
Hey,
Marsha.
Rita, did you tell Michaela about that grant writing workshop?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And she's actually taken that training, and that's how she even started the Dixie Fire Canopy project, was working with Elisa, and that's that connection with Christy Brown for Sierra Nevada Conservancy, because she took that training, and that was her project that she took into that training with her.
Kim, do you have to
Yeah.
sign off?
Trina, does that grant writing workshop have a date yet? Or is that still kind of up in the air?
That's up in the air, and that is totally dependent on us. And so that's what we do need a little help with is Patrick sent it out, but I'm not sure if you got responses or if we need to attach a timeline or suggested dates.
To be honest, I wanted to cut myself out as the middle person because the registration had a registrant address. If you're interested in this workshop, email
Okay.
so-and-so and there was and I know one of our organization, like the fire district, did Roger up to it and received back a kind of a more formal rundown of the expectations. And that one had dates on it, which looked like at the end of August, which I thought, based on
okay.
what had been described, was soon, because I don't know what Trinity had said is that it would probably be sometime September or October. So I don't know if that was a typo, but I was going to follow up with I can't remember her name, but
Elisa.
no, that wasn't the person who's the point of contact.
Right.
There was a separate point of contact who is kind of collating all the names, and there's an admin assistant that's doing that. Elisa's just there for the content. So anyway, but I was going to follow up with them just to see how many respondents they had at this point.
Perfect. And I haven't responded, so I need to do that. Just like, of
Okay.
course I'm going to be there, but I do need to respond and register and make that commitment. And so Dax, to your question, I think they really wanted to gauge people's availability and what commitment, because it does need to be 3 consecutive days.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I was just thinking of a couple people that I might pass that flyer on to.
Yeah, forward it to
I
anyone.
sent it to the organizational summit list, and I sent it to anybody that was involved with the ad hoc subcommittee. So I sent it out to like 70 people.
Oh, great.
But if you know more through your work or just through the community, please forward it. Because we do need a minimum of 10. And then if we get 18, I'm not quite sure how she's going to handle that.
I think it's just first come, first serve,
Yep.
whoever they get their response.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Just a quick nod on the community projects. I've reached out to the American Legion, the Greenville Southern Baptist Church, and the Cy Hall Museum to determine if they have enough funding for their own builds. And waiting to hear back from any of them on that. So Danny had expressed interest the last time that we talked on community projects. So talked to John Banks. Still need to follow up with Terry Jones. Did talk to him briefly when the foundation was getting at least framed at the Southern Baptist Church. And I talked to Trav Rupke, that if someone's coming up short and they're like, man, we got this great building, but we don't have enough money for light fixtures or landscaping or a walkway or a driveway, just to see if there's any opportunities on community projects, if there's any gap funding that maybe the DFC could provide. So more to follow on that. It is a little bit after 5, but I do want to reserve some time for any committee member updates. We're just going to go around the horn real quick. Danny, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Nothing additional. I think it's been a great meeting and a lot of content and stuff already.
Great. Thank you, Danny. Appreciate it. Lida, do you have anything you'd like to share?
No, just we're not under an evacuation warning anymore, so we might be able to get back. Yeah.
Very nice to hear that.
Yeah.
Marcia, do you have anything you'd like to share?
I don't. Thanks.
All right. Glad you're feeling better.
Thanks.
Trina, anything from your end?
No, just thanks to everybody. And Kim, thank you for being here today.
Greg, is there anything you'd like to share?
No, I'm good. I'm happy, Lida, that you're okay. I was worried about you, but
All's well.
that's it. Yeah, good.
Thank you, Greg. Matt, anything?
Only that the hotel renovation's going really well. Today was a bit of a record. I've got 11 people working on the hotel today, so it's all happening.
Good. That's great news. Congratulations. Small wins. Dax, anything from you?
Nope, nothing else from me.
All right, aloha and welcome home.
Thank you.
Okay, so for our next meeting, if everybody's good, we'll just keep it on Labor Day, 3 to 5, September 2nd. If that works for everybody. If there are any reservations about that, feel free to hit me up and we can find another opportunity. But that'll be the next meeting. Also, the community meetings seem to go well. And a lot of good information shared, a lot of just, like kind of level setting and just providing some background and context. And I think hopefully it'll help, and we'll continue to work on the information and more granular updates with regard to funding from DFC, North Valley Community Foundation, the Almanor Foundation, and where they overlap and where they don't. So that's what I'll be working on the rest of the week. Next week, I will be, I have a full week of military duty from Monday through Friday, but I will be available via all the ways to contact people when they're not around. Oh, also the feedback from the community meeting is that people liked the venue of it being in the library. So we may look to do that. That it was better. People felt that they could hear better, that they could interact a little bit more effectively. So we'll take a look at that. And that also there was a request to do the September meeting, that instead of going bi-monthly, to stick at least with the next September meeting and then just kind of go from there. So I'm gonna figure out a lineup. And then we also have an entity from the North Texas University that wants to come in October. They wanted to provide some feedback and also elicit some more information. They'd asked us to shift our meeting from the third weekend in October to the last weekend. I was looking at it. I don't know if that's really possible, just given some of the other things. I think it might be more trouble. So any thoughts on that?
So which meeting to shift to when?
It would take our October meeting going from the third weekend, the third Saturday of October, and put it on the last Saturday of October, which I think is the 26th.
Oh, it's my birthday, yeah, okay.
I
Saturday,
think we should have it on the 26th and plan on it.
Have a party.
We can, maybe we could do it in our house, but anyway,
Well, that'd be cool.
you know, we
does
might have
anybody
furniture by then.
if we shifted it, so the North Texas research team, they've been here before. I think that maybe some of you have spoken to them. They did research on basically what happens to disaster area migration, and they study how people migrate and how they eventually, if at all, ever come back to where they migrated from. They are kind of doing a road show, and so they've got travel plans that they need to make. And for them, they said it would work better the last weekend of October, but they understand if we can't accommodate that. So, any thoughts? I mean, here's my personal opinion: is like I don't know that so many people recognize that we do this the meeting goes every third Saturday. I think there's the diehards that do. But other people, I think the routine hasn't struck them. And I mean, the Titanic is far enough away from the iceberg right now that in terms of like the information sharing, we could probably veer off course and be able to get enough.
It's fine with me.
I'm indifferent is what I'm saying.
As long as we notify early, I mean, for those diehards, I mean, the diehards got to know, otherwise they might even have that weekend already scheduled. They might be able to reschedule at this point.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So thoughts on the last weekend of October? Okay.
Works for me.
Okay.
Yeah, it works for me too. Just as far as the community goes, the weekend before Halloween, I don't know if there's like school
thinking, Trina, is that
events or things like that.
There are going to be conflicts. There will be.
Yeah.
100%. There's going to be school. I know there's going to be like a
Halloween party, carnival.
There's all that stuff. So,
but we're early enough in the day, hopefully, that there won't be as many conflicts.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Hey, Patrick, we're having the meeting on the 2nd, and then are we also having it on the 16th of September?
That would be the next, scheduled steering committee meeting, yeah.
And then we
Second.
wouldn't have one on the 30th?
Correct. It would
Okay.
just be the first and the third.
Okay.
Mondays, so the 2nd of September and the 16th of September.
Gotcha.
Yep, yes, ma'am. And with that, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Trina.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Lida.
Nice to see you all.
Nice to
Thank
see
you,
you.
Kim.
Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
For all your
Thanks
work.
for coming on.
Okay.
All in
Bye,
favor?
guys.
Oh,
Bye.
Hi.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't really.
Yeah, that's all right. Any opposed? Oh, Sherry, did you had your head up? I'm sorry. Oh, you're muted.
There's missing.
There we
I
go.
was gonna ask about the community meeting, how people liked the library and how that went and what the turnout was. So you covered most of that, Patrick. Thanks.
Yeah, and I set out chairs for 50, and I think we had probably about 35.
Oh.
35 or 40. You know, there's some people standing up in the back, and so
I like having a table, Patrick, but that's me. I used my knee propped up, but I had a clipboard to write on, so, but just saying,
Set up a table for Jenny and the couple of others that want a table.
yeah, we can do that. So, all right. Well, thank you all very much, and have a good evening.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Patrick.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.